Hello and welcome to the Divorced Dadvocate, where we help dads create a healthy and less traumatic divorce. My name is Jude Sandoval and I'm your host. Today, we are going to talk about another installment of practical advice. It's been a little while since we've done a practical advice show, and there's a theme, or actually some questions that have been coming up recently about parenting time plans and what is the best parenting time plan for divorced dads. And so I don't know about you, but for me, when I was going through this process, there were so many things going on and so many moving components to the divorce that I didn't put a ton of thought as to what the whole process this is going to be like, and the impact it's going to have, and the dynamic with my ex, etc. And I can say now, after 9.5 years down the road, that it is an absolutely critical thing to put a good amount of thought process and efforts into getting this pinned down to be the best possible plan for you and for your family dynamic and environment. So we're going to talk about that today. But first, let me just give you, I've got several show notes today, and the first being, again, the divorce quiz is still up. We're getting men doing it just about every single day. It's a fantastic resource to gauge where you're at in the divorce process compared to others who have gone through it. It takes about 10 minutes, and then it'll give you some immediate results with a scale for you to look at. Also, if you need some help in interpreting that, or you just want to talk about what you've got going on with your divorce, you've got a free no obligation opportunity to spend some time with me to review those results. So I hope that you'll take advantage of that. You can find the quiz at thedivorcedadvocate.com. That's the website under the divorce quiz tab, or you can go to it directly at thedivorcequiz.com and go through it there. So please check it out. It's an awesome resource, and a lot of men are finding some value in that. The second show note is I got some really awesome news this week, and that is that this podcast, The Divorced Dadvocate, now ranks in the top 10% globally of almost 3 million podcasts. So I want to thank everybody that has been listening to this. We're a little past a year and a half. All of you that have shared this, who have made comments, who've liked it on the YouTube page, that continue to tune in, I sincerely appreciate your support. We are reaching now every single week thousands and thousands of men across the world, and helping them at whatever point they're in their divorce process or post-divorce. And I am truly humbled by the success of the show in the top 10% globally of almost 3 million podcasts. So thank you. And again, please share this with a dad, another dad that you might know that's going through or is just post-divorce. It could literally change his life. And the last thing on that note, and not just because of that, but that's part of it. February is my birthday month. So I would like to be celebrating all through the month, but that's just not happening. However, this is a special birthday for me. It's my 50th birthday. And so I wanted to make a special offer to all of the listeners out there during this entire month of my 50th birthday month. And what that offer is 50% off. Yes, a whole 50% off of your private coaching package. Now, I rarely do this. I think the last time I did was way more than a year ago, so somewhere around pre-COVID, in discounting packages. But I think that this is a good time to celebrate. I know a lot of you have been listening for a good amount of time. Some of my clients have listened for a year or more before getting in contact with me and coming on in clients. So I want this, my birthday month, my 50th birthday, a 50% discount is being an incentive for you to pull the trigger and get in contact with me at talkwithjude.com and schedule a time for us to talk about what you've got going on, how I may be of assistance, and that 50% off of your coaching package. Now is the opportunity for you to do that. It's never going to get better. And I guarantee you that there's nobody else out there that it's going to be so incredibly reasonably priced. Now, I hope that every one of you listening reaches out, because that would be amazing and it'd be a great problem to have. I do have a limited amount of slots that I'll be able to fit this into. So the sooner that you go to talkwithjude.com and schedule your free, no obligation time for us to get together and talk about that and utilize this offer, the better, because if I just can't fit it in the schedule at some point, I'll just have to stop, and I will still honor it all through February, but I might have to put you on a wait list until I have more spots in my schedule open up. So please take advantage of that. And you know, it's going to be, it's my once in a lifetime 50th birthday, and it's really going to be maybe once in a lifetime opportunity to get the 50% off of the coaching services. So I look forward to that, and I look forward to chatting with you. Okay, practical advice and what is the best parenting time plan for divorced dads. This is a complex topic. And obviously, because everybody's situations are different and your agreements can all be different, which is the first point I'm going to make, that I'm not going to be able to get in real specific detail on this, but I wanted to give some very general ideas of a cohesive way to go about making these decisions about the parenting time plan. And I want to emphasize, like I said in my opening, that this has a huge impact on the environment for you and your children going forward. It's something that I didn't even think about and consider with all the chaos going on during divorce, but have seen how much it impacts after the fact. Now, I was very fortunate. A lot of my parenting time plan that my attorneys put together and in their stock way that they came to the agreement without me even really knowing or realizing or understanding, turned out to be very positive. So I was very, very lucky. However, I've heard lots and lots and lots of stories to the contrary, which is details were not worked out. We didn't have specifics. We kind of left it pretty loosey-goosey around what we were going to do and transition times and how holidays looked, et cetera. And that is a recipe for lots of, it can be heartache really when things get difficult or get sideways, but for trying to work things out on the back end and challenges and more difficulties and upset. And so you want, the number one thing is to have an agreement that works for you. Now, there's sometimes the misunderstanding that there's a stock way in which the court wants to see this done. Now, I will say, depending upon where you're at in the world, even in just the United States where I'm at, where you're at in our country, there does seem to be a variance in how the courts seem to want or guidance around how they structure these plans, or a traditional way, let's say, on how they structure this. That has been very much that the mother is nurturing and there should be more time with mothers than fathers. That kind of led to dads having every other weekend and mothers having the rest of the parenting time. That, at least in the Western world, there's been a dramatic shift in that. And a lot of that has been driven by just a vast amount of studies that support the fact that one of the biggest contributors to success and health for children in their adult lives is that fathers are involved in their lives, in their adolescent lives. And so there has been a big shift to more of a 50-50 philosophy where dads are getting as much time as mothers with their children. Now, again, depending upon where you're at, even in our country or the world, that could be different. But I do want to emphasize to you that it is worth fighting for that 50-50 parenting time with your children, because there is no greater impact that you can have on your children than being around and spending time. One of the things I do hear also, and this is kind of a carryover from that mentality, is, well, but what if you're working and all the time that you get is a couple hours at night after you pick them up from daycare, and it's just not real quality time because you're making dinner and helping with homework or getting them ready or doing wash or whatever. I'm telling you, and I guarantee you, and the studies support that even that time with their fathers is critical. It is helping to model, it's helping to develop that relationship. There are so many positives that go into it. So if that comes up, if you get whether it's from the acts or the attorneys or the court that says, well, it's not quality time, you're working so much, this or that, or any other excuse, it is not valid. Having that time with your children is absolutely critical, and fighting for that is 100% worth it. So if you're fighting for that, don't give up on it. It is going to pay off. It might not pay off in the short run. You may not see it now. You may not see it for decades until your children become parents and see and understand and value the time that they had with you as a single father. So I just want to say that up front, make sure to fight for that time. Now, the courts, the next point I want to make is that the courts don't, and this kind of piggybacks on what I just said, the courts don't have a specific way like 50-50 or there's 5-2-2-5 or every other weekend. The courts more than likely will agree with the parents if they have come to an understanding as to what is a parenting time plan that is in the best interest of the children. So if you have a unique situation that may merit having something that is very different than the standard 50-50, 5-2-2-5, every day or weekend, whatever it might be, as long as you and your ex or soon to be ex come to that agreement and you can demonstrate that that is in the best interest of the kiddos, then by all means, work that out and bring it to the court. Sometimes that's going to take a little bit more effort. Sometimes attorneys just don't like that because it takes a little bit more work. And I'm going to say also, there's a lot of great attorneys, but the attorneys don't always have the best answer for this for you, but just with some stock example of a 5-2-2-5 or a 50-50 or whatever it might be, they don't know. They know the law, and that's what you have hired them for. You know your family, you know your kiddos, and you know your ex. And so it's going to be best for you to determine what is going to be in the best interest of that entire dynamic. Now, to the point that it's important for you to craft something that is a positive for you as well, because this is going to be, and this is what I alluded to in the beginning, this is going to be the agreement that you are not stuck with, but abiding by for many years to come. And it could be decades or longer if your kids are young. Mine were 6, 4, and 2. So we're at like almost 2 decades of this parenting plan. So you can imagine that it is pretty critical to have your I's dotted and your T's crossed, to say, so that there are very little misunderstandings around what it is you're doing, how you're doing it, and what that plan looks like. And so it's setting the tone for going forward so that there's no misunderstandings and no challenges with that. So let's talk in a little bit more detail about some of the, let's just say, standard ways in which you can go about doing this. And again, this doesn't mean that you have to choose one of these, but I'm going to highlight a couple of them and give the positives and potential negatives around them so that you have an understanding, because it's something that I have men ask, and in our group meetings, we have a lot of discussion around this, particularly the men with younger, or dads with younger children, and how it impacts and what the best practices are, and how that works with work schedule and everything else in transition. So I'm going to highlight some of those, but again, if you need help, hey, all right, you got 50% off now with coaching packages. This is part of what I work through with some men is the parenting agreements, and part of that is the parenting time within that parenting agreement and what's going to be positive for you, because it can be easy with negotiation. Sometimes it'll be a mediation. Sometimes it's going and proving it into court, but that's part of the value that I can bring to you and helping you with that. But some of the most common ones are 50-50. So that's easy. Let's just start with that. And 50-50 is that for 7 days, the kiddos stay with one parent, and then there's a transition, and then for the next 7 days, they stay with the other parents. And so that is positive in the sense that it's very clean and very easy with transitions. There's only one transition a week, and you can plan grocery shopping, you can plan your events, you can plan for vacations. It works very positively with the vacation part, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. It works very good with taking vacations with kids' spring breaks as well, because you're still working off of that 7 days on and 7 days off. So there's a lot of benefits to it. Now, some of the challenges, and at least the greatest challenge for that I've found, and a lot of men find, is that that's a long time to be away from your kiddos. And for me, that was a really big deal. That was really, really hard. And we actually didn't start with a 50-50 parenting plan until our kids were a little bit older. And the positive when they're older is that it's not as much of a period of time away. And then one little tip, and this is one too that I'll give it now. I was going to give it later, but be creative. You can be creative within these parenting time plans. And one of the things that we wrote that was written in that I didn't even appreciate until later on was a daily, nightly phone call, a check-in phone call with our kiddos in order to just stay connected with them. And that was really, really fantastic, particularly when they were younger, in staying connected so that the kiddos could stay connected with the other parent, even on a daily basis. Now, I did other things like show up at school and have lunch with them once a week, so that I get to see them as well. We also put a dinner night in that week that we were off from our parenting with our kids. So on one night, halfway through a Tuesday or a Wednesday, because our transition was on Fridays, the other parent was able to pick up the kids from school, have an evening with them, have dinner, get to see them, and then spend some time and then drop them off before bedtime so that then they can get settled and go back with the other parents. So you can get creative with the 50-50 time, particularly if you have a co-parenting relationship with your ex that is amicable and they're willing to work in different ways to do stuff, facilitate some of those phone calls, facilitate the dinner nights, facilitate maybe picking up if one kid, if you have multiple kids and there's crazy coordinated schedules with multiple kids doing multiple activities that one of the parents will pick up and you can coordinate that. That's a really fantastic and healthy way in which to co-parent with your ex. And the 50-50 makes that pretty smooth, particularly if you're both amicable and are willing to make some changes. Now, on that note, whatever you agree to, get it down in writing and have it be very specific. I'm going to say that again. Whatever you agree to, get it down in writing. Don't let it be, oh, yeah, we'll do this. And then if we need to do this, then I'll be willing to do that. See, I see this all the time, which is the men agree to, okay, well, she said she's gonna help out if I don't have, if I have a challenge with work and pick up, but I don't have it in the agreement. And then the time comes, well, you said that you were going to help, or we were going to be, we're going to be helping or conducive or just malleable with how we do this, but now you're not doing that. Make sure you get it down in writing. It's easier to have something that is very specific, that you can abide by. And then if you want to be loose with it and you want to make changes to it and you both agree to it, then you'll work backwards from there and be a little more relaxed with what the agreement is, as long as you both have the willingness to do that. Another creative thing you can put in there is that if you want to make any changes to the plan, then you can do that without going back to court, but with a simple written agreement, and that can be an email agreement or written back and forth where you both agree to make a change to the parenting plan, so that you have documentation that you both agreed to that, and then you made the change, and then you have to spend the money in going back to court. You've just done that on your own and agreed to that and have been flexible with each other. And that's what we did. And that worked out good when we decided that the 5-2-2-5, and I'll explain that in just a minute, was more challenging and that we wanted to go to the 50-50. We agreed that 50-50, 1 week on, 1 week off, was going to be better for our family, for our daughters. We're going to do a dinner night as well. And that's going to give that connection midweek to be able to see the kiddos and not have to go a whole week without seeing them. So get it in writing, be very specific about whatever you do. Even if it's a creative agreement you come up with, be very specific in there what that agreement is. Write it all out, and so that you've got it and there's no questions asked about that. So that's 50-50. Now, in the 50-50 transitions and transition times, I found that the transition times, and this goes kind of across the board, and I found this in my situation, but I've also found this with some other men, that a good transition time seems to be at school or after school, because you can pick up from daycare. There's more flexibility if they're in after school care, if they're in daycare after school day, as opposed to, I've seen parenting plans where the transition is a Monday morning, which might be right before school. And that, I don't know about some of you guys, but mornings, getting up, getting the kids, getting myself ready, number one, like just trying to do that is enough of an effort. But getting kids and lunches ready, getting kids ready, getting out the door, adding a transition in a morning just is really, really challenging. And I've heard a lot of stories. Some people can pull it off. I just don't want to set myself up for potential failure. So I have found that transitions after school work really well. Now, with the 50-50 that we worked it out on Friday afternoons after school. And and it was just happenstance that we did this, but it worked out incredibly well. And I'll tell you why. It's the end of the school week. So there's no stress about them getting home, getting situated back in a new environment at the other home, and then still having to get homework done, get ready for the next school day, etc. It's a Friday, it's an afternoon, it's after school. There's no pressure that you got to get up in the morning. You don't have homework necessarily that you have to get done. And it's given me an opportunity to do something fun that gets them back into my environment. We've talked about this, creating routines and traditions around the transition and having something that you do. We do a pizza and we do movie night on Fridays. So they know that every Friday we come home, we're going to get settled. We're going to get some pizza and make pizza. We're going to watch a movie and hang out and just get connected again. So that has worked for us on 50-50. And a lot of guys and a lot of dads I've talked to have enjoyed that, or maybe even a Saturday morning as well, or sometime over the weekend, because there's just not as much. Now, that might be a little bit more challenging once the kids get a little bit older. Like now I've got teens and they're all over the place. Yesterday I was driving, felt like all over the state of Colorado with color guard and band and like all kinds of other stuff going on. So just consider that, right? Because you might be working this plan when they're young, they're in elementary or even just in preschool, but there's going to come a time where they're teens, they're older, everybody's activities are completely different. Their interests are completely different. And they might be going in however many kids you got. I got three different directions all at the same time. And I'm one of me, 3 different directions just doesn't work. So keep that in consideration and in mind also when you're putting this together, is what might be happening in the future, what's going to work with you as well. And then if you can work some kind of amicable clause in there that says, well, we can change this upon a written mutual agreement, that we can make those changes, that's a really, really good way to go. So I like those Friday night transitions on the 50-50 schedule. 50-50 schedule has worked really well for us with the kids that are older. Now let's talk about, you'll hear a 5-2-2-5 schedule. Now this is complicated. You might need to pull out a calendar and take a look at it right now. While I'm talking about this, I'll give you about 15 seconds to pull it up on your phone and just look at a week of your schedule, or look at a 2-week block of your schedule, because it kind of works in 2 weeks with the concept of the 5-2-2-5. Now, this is when one parent will have a Monday and a Tuesday. The other parent will have a Wednesday and a Thursday, and then you will alternate weekends. So that would look like is, I used to have Mondays and Tuesdays. So my daughters would be with me on Monday and Tuesday, and we would transition on Tuesday nights. My ex would bring or pick them up from school on Tuesday nights, and then they would be with her on Wednesday nights. So they would be with me they would be with me on Monday and then Tuesday. I'd take them to school on Wednesday, and she'd pick them up on Wednesday, and then they'd be with her on Wednesday and Thursday. And then depending upon the weekend, let's say it was her weekend, she would keep them through the weekend on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then I would pick them up from school on Monday. And then what happens is that following week, I would have them Monday and Tuesday. She would then have them Wednesday and Thursday. And then I would pick them up from school on Friday after school. And then they would stay with me, because that was my weekend, from Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then I still have them on my Monday and Tuesday through that. And then she would pick up on Wednesday. hence the 5-2-2-5. So you see, when it's your weekend, you have them for a full 5 days, and then the other parent has them 2 days, and then you have them 2 days, and then it rotates. The other parent has them for 5 days. It sounds easy when I'm saying it. I don't think I really grasped it for a good year until I executed it. But if you look at it on a calendar and kind of block it out, like my parenting time, Monday, Tuesday, my ex's parenting time, Wednesday, Thursday, or vice versa, and then alternate the weekends, you can kind of see how that works. So it's called 5-2-2-5. And the benefits of the 5-2-2-5, I found in particular when they were younger, is that it doesn't keep the children away from one parent, the children or child away from one parent or the other for a great amount of time. So literally, you're not going any more than 5 days without seeing your kiddos, and so that helps to keep that connection with them. Now, and also it gives a lot of flexibility with folks that might have a different type of schedule. People that maybe work weekends or can work every other weekend, or different unique schedules where they're maybe out of town for periods of time for 5 days, or this works well for people that are in industries like the airline industry, where they might be flying or gone for a period of time, or a hospitality industry where they're working out of town, or any kind of traveling executives, et cetera. So that's very, very helpful with that you don't have to be in town for an entire week. You can have periods of time that are shorter, that you're gone and you're not missing any parenting time. Now, a couple of the challenges are, number one, it is a lot of transitions. So you're transitioning twice during the week, and then so you're transitioning on that Wednesday, you're transitioning on that Friday, and then you're transitioning, depending again, maybe on that Monday or that Wednesday again, and Friday. So there are a lot of transitions, and so you can imagine that if the kids are needing to pull or bring stuff back and forth, sometimes that's a hassle, because they might have to bring it to school, or you might have to make a stop at the other parent's house after you pick up to pick up some stuff, depending upon what the kids need to bring between the houses. So that makes a little bit greater effort in doing those transitions. It's also potentially a little bit more disruptive to them, because there's a transition period no matter what you do between the houses, going from one house to the other, the one environment to the other for the kids. So can be a little bit mentally and emotionally taxing for the kiddos as well, in having to make that transition. You also can consider that they have homework and doing stuff like that, and so that can be a little bit disruptive sometimes with that as well. And then it can be just a lot, just a lot. And so especially when they're older and they've got all the activities like I talked about, coordinating then when you have transitions and a work week, and let's say you've got 3 kids like I do, and they have 3 different types of activities, but you have 2 transitions during the week, and which parent is doing that on which week, and which day they have. Well, for instance, like my daughter's basketball practice or games Monday through Thursday, and which parent, if you've got Monday and Tuesday or Wednesday and Thursday, and so you got to bring them to practice, and which games and which parent, or it can be very, very complicated. And so that is going to take an immense amount of communication with your ex in order to pull that off effectively. So that's something really to consider. That's a big one, I would say, to consider with the 5-2-2-5, particularly when the kids are older, is do you have or can you develop that relationship and that communication with your X about how you're going to coordinate schedules and activities and everything else during that 5-2-2-5. So those are two of the most common. Now, one of the less common ones that I'm seeing these days is the every other weekend for dads, which is fantastic. I'm so thrilled to see this because that is just not enough time to be spending with your kiddos. Now, I understand sometimes there's no other way around that, and schedules don't permit, and that's the best for your family, and completely understand that. But that weekend, 1 weekend on, 1 weekend off. Now, the good thing about it, I started with the negative part of it. I should have started with the positive of it. So the negative is potentially you're not getting enough time to spend with your kid or your kiddos. So, but whatever that situation was, whether it's by choice or just that was forced upon you, but the positives is that it can, and this is going to be a personal choice, help you to be very hyper focused on that time when you do get to spend with them on those weekends, and giving you the time to really prepare something and some time together on that weekend that is meaningful. Prepare activities to do, prepare meals, prepare trips. If you're going to take trips and go out of town, it does give you a good amount of time to be able to be prepared for that, and also very hyper focused on spending time with your kids and focused in and present with them and practicing that presence with them, because it's only going to be a couple of times a month. So there is positives to everything, most definitely, but I really feel like, and I know it's been my experience, and a lot of the dads that I have worked with and continue to work with, is the more time you're spending with them, that's the greatest impact that you can possibly have. All right, let's talk about also the holiday and school break schedules. And this can get very contentious because it really screws with that normal schedule, and gets contentious not only for parents, but it gets a little challenging for the kids, because we get into a routine daily, whether it's the 50-50, 5-2-2-5, every other weekend, and it's comfortable. And then we come up on a school break or a birthday or holiday, and it kind of throws everything off. Now, most parenting time plans will have that the holiday time supersedes the regular schedule. But if you supersede it in a manner in which then one parent or the other then has an inordinate amount of time with the kids, and then the kids are away from one of the parents or the other parents for a great amount of time, that is never a positive thing. So again, thinking through these parenting time plans as well as the holiday time, and I highly suggest, like I did with looking at the 5-2-2-5, is pull out a year-long calendar, like a physical one, old school. Go to Office Max or Depot, wherever you shop for office supplies. Get a calendar, a year-long calendar, and look at the holidays. Look at the plan that you're considering, if you can do this together with your soon-to-be ex, and look at how the parenting plan works with the holiday schedule, with holidays. And this is not just school holidays like spring break or Christmas break or any one of those. It's maybe the long Martin Luther King, the holidays that we celebrate here in the States, or where you celebrate where you're at, the long ones as well, because those have impacts. And I can guarantee you that if one parent gets screwed one year, the other parent's going to get screwed another year. And so somebody's always going to get screwed, and that creates ill will and bad feelings. So if you can figure this out up front, it is going to go a long way, because you don't want extended periods of time away from the kids. It just isolates them. It creates a bad situation. So taking a look at that year long and see how it works with the holiday scheduling. Now, I'll say that I'll give a couple of tips. And again, it's really hard to talk specifically or talk in specifics to what you might have going on, because like everybody's schedule is different and everybody has different professions and different preferences and different relationships and all of that. But I'll share a little bit about what has worked for my particular situation, what I've seen with some of the other men. And that has been with creating a week, like in 1 year, in the other year, especially during the holidays, at the end of the year, the Thanksgiving and the Christmas and the New Year's holidays here in the States, that we alternate the Thanksgiving and the Christmas, and so that there's not a time frame where one parent's really spending all the holidays 1 year, Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, and the other parent is doing it on the other year. Again, it's not beneficial for the kiddos to just be with one parent or the other parent in general. Again, this might be different for you, and that might be a positive, and that might be a good thing, as long as you're comfortable with it, your soon-to-be ex or your ex is comfortable with it, and you're conveying that to the kids. And that conveying is really a big part of it. And you may remember we talked about in the series of how to get through the holidays, right around the holidays, and be a positive. Communication about this parenting plan is very critical with the kids, and making them feel comfortable that you want to see them, that you want them to be and see and spend time with your ex, spend holidays with them, that it's important. Now, I'll use an example that worked out really well. This is just an example of how everybody's lives and everybody's holidays and how you structure this is different. But my tradition in my family was celebrating Christmas on Christmas Eve. So we got together on Christmas Eve, and that's where we did our big shindig and dinners and opening presents and all of that. Well, my ex's family does that on Christmas Day. So that was a really perfect dynamic to create a situation where if possible, most of the time we'll celebrate on Christmas Eve for myself and my children. And then there's an opportunity for them to also be spending the time, no matter what, and no matter the year, with my ex's family on Christmas, because that's the time they celebrate. So that worked out really convenient and really well for us to be able to, and actually we didn't come to this, it was written this way, but it worked out really well. But I'm using this as an example of how something, depending on your situation, if you can come to an agreement, can work really well for your situation, your environment, your family lifestyle. So that's one. But again, it takes a lot of forethought. And if you can work and sit down with your soon-to-be ex, go through the calendar, look at this, draw it out, write it out, look at the calendar, look at the different scenarios. So you might need to buy multiple calendars and write multiple ways that the scenario plays out, and see how that will work out over a year. Go down even 2 years to see how that works out, and how it will be beneficial for each one of the parents, not only in 1 year, but the next year. Because if you're doing the alternating holiday thing, it's going to be different in the next year. Another tip is take a look at the kids' school schedule and what their breaks look like. And if your kids are in a school where they're established and you kind of know what the calendar is going to be like, you'll have a pretty good idea of when they get off for whichever breaks. And then you can look at those as well and work that into an agreement, whether that is on alternating years, one parent or the other has an option to take the kids traveling. And if they're not going to exercise that travel clause, that then you just stay on the regular schedule, which I highly recommend, because that will really help keep that consistent schedule that I talked about, that the breaks or the holidays kind of disrupt. If there's not a good reason why the kids need to be with one parent or another, like they're traveling for a holiday or for a break, that you just keep that schedule and it keeps things consistent. So there's all kinds of those little tweaks, those little creative ways that you can do it that is beneficial. And the last point that I will make is always put the kids' best interest in mind. And it is in the kids' best interest to be able to spend time. And again, this is for the most part. I know that there are exceptions out there where there's parents that are abusive, that are parents that they shouldn't be in the environment with, and that's a different story. But for the most part, it is in their best interest to be spending time with both parents. They take part of their identity from their parents. There are positives that they can learn from both parents. So if you keep the kids in mind that it's a positive for them to be spending not only time, but holidays with them, so that they can cultivate that part of their lives with you and your ex, that is going to be the best possible scenario. And again, okay, I'm going to make another point, the second point. Actually, I'm going to reinforce the original point I made, which is you can get creative. Do something that is best for you and best for your family. Don't just leave it to the attorneys. Don't just leave it to a boilerplate agreement. Look at those specific details and how that plays out. Spend the time doing it. It might be frustrating. It might be difficult. It might take some effort in doing that and sitting down. And you might even have to go to mediation. You may even have to argue this in court. But I promise that it'll be, because hey, you're stuck. You're most likely stuck unless you want to come back to court. And trust me, trust me, if you've not done this more than one time, and hopefully you're not, you don't want to come back to court. You don't want to pay attorneys. You don't want to file motions. And you definitely don't want to leave it up to the court to make that decision for you based upon whatever evidence you bring. So taking this time up front, no matter what the effort, is huge, and creating it and tailoring it to what is best for you, the kiddos, and your situation will pay such dividends down the road in the potentially decade or decades to come, that you will be abiding by this parenting time plan and co-parenting. So again, that's something that I can help you with. I'll just give another plug, and you've got 50% off of a coaching plan that I can help you with now in my birthday month of February. So that is some practical advice around what is the best parenting time plan for divorced dads. I hope you found some value in that. I know I recognize that it's a little bit complicated and some of it might not make sense. It is challenging, but it's worth putting the time into that. If you found value in what I've shared with you today, please share it with somebody else. Like if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on any one of the platforms, thank you. Thank you for putting us in the 10% of podcasts globally, almost 3 million podcasts. We're in the top 10%. That is just mind-boggling to me. Thank you for all of you who listen all across the world. Thank you for making the divorced advocate community so broad and diverse, and for getting plugged in. If you're not plugged in yet, please do. Not only if the 50% of the coaching, but we've got all these other resources. You can check it out at thedivorcedadvocate.com. We've got the free group meetings that are on the second and the fourth Saturday of every month. We've got workshops, we've got classes, we've got all kinds of support and resources. I'm getting close with the app and getting the app out there, which is going to be awesome for all of you. It'll be a single place for you to find everything of the divorced advocate community just on your phone, no matter where you are at in the world. So we've got a 2022 that is just going to be absolutely phenomenal. So it's all a credit to you. I appreciate your listening. And I also want to say, hang in there. If it's a challenging time, I assure you that it will get better, but get plugged in. Don't isolate. Don't go about this yourself. There's others of us who've gone through it. There's other of us that are going through it, and having the support here in the divorced advocate community is absolutely key. So thanks for listening. God bless. Have an awesome weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.